declared that. So all things I do, I try to practice that. You see? And so that's the whole thing of practice, is that we can talk about this thing all day long. And we come up with some good ideas. The shopping lists are long. But we ain't practicing, and we're not engaging on what we know with the descendant enslavers. Nothing happens. Nothing but talk. What actually happens is that they determine what reparation will look like for us. And see, what that really is embarrassing in terms of how much we emphasize our ability, self-determination. It'd be very embarrassing if we allow them to do that. You see? And so it would also be very embarrassing if we allow them to put us back into slave modality, you know, by continuing to call us slaves, calling our ancestors slaves. That's critical, y'all, because they do that to raise themselves up, right? Their freedom is based on our enslavement. So these are the types of things you must practice locally. You must engage your local officials on these questions of slavery disclosure. Disclose not only financial institutions, but also colleges and universities, and also the church. You see, we're talking about the Catholic Church. We're talking about the Jesuits, you know? So that's clear. They're clear on the record. They've already admitted. If they admitted to Georgetown, the Georgetown students did some direct action on the faculty of Georgetown. So we got to do something. Like, we cannot continue to allow people to do something for us. We got to get out and protest, but the protest must be based on some facts and circumstances that history supports. That's undeniable. That's unrefutable. And so we think that we have the case for that, but it becomes a matter of belief now, because we've been so disbelieving in what we can do. All I'd say, look at the South African movement, right? The divestment movement there. Look at the civil rights movement when there was none. When everybody was talking down about Martin Luther King, that it never happened. We would never even get into civil rights. But what happened? So that's the price of reconciliation. The price of reconciliation is we must struggle for ourselves. We must take those positions. And if we are off point in it anyway, if we continue to practice, we get it right. Practice makes perfect. So don't get caught up and be nullified by not thinking that it's going to work. Don't do that. You know, it works when you work it. It works when you demand. It works when you have voices. You allow people to hear your voice. See, I was in, Brother Cam was in Baltimore with me with I think the brother named Gray that was killed down there. And the protest word was, they have guns, we have voices. And you got to understand what they were saying, that regardless of those guns, we're going to protest. We're going to stand behind what we stand for. We're going to stand behind the truth that we put forth, and we want justice. Justice. Reparations is justice for us, right? And so repair must start first with who we are. That's what they did. They took away our peoplehood. Then they put it into, they worked us to death, from can't see in the morning to can't see at night. Then they incarcerate us forever. And then the whole concept was based on being a permanent enslaved from the womb. That's the concept. So if we don't say who we are, they're gonna say you're always a slave. They're gonna call you what they want to call you. But what they're gonna call you is not gonna have nothing to do with the facts and circumstances of who you are and what happened to you. You see, that's the game they're playing. We cannot play their game. We must play our game, which must be a long game. I'm so proud that NCOBRA has been around for 31 years and probably be around for 31 more, even after reparations is negotiated at the negotiation table. You see? So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a long life. How many organizations now in the Valley of Dry Bones that's no longer here? No, that's no longer effective. So don't get caught up in that. And because we've been in it for 31 years and reparations have yet to be paid. Well, they've been struggling against us. And we haven't been struggling like we're supposed to be struggling locally. We always talk about these national movements. We talk about these international movements. But if we don't do nothing locally, everybody looking at us in the United States, what we have and what we accomplish, if we're not accomplishing this, moving this reparation movement forward in the United States, Hey, they're gonna do their deals the way they feel they want to do their deals for the Caribbean, for folks in Great Britain, for those enslaved in Brazil. You see what I mean? But so they all look to the United States as that great nation, and look to us as those who have all the great opportunities. So we must use the great opportunity that we have to struggle. Right? We must be engaged. Our descendant enslavers, they're still here. We are the descendants of the enslaved. That's fact on both ends. So we must allow our voices to be heard in that respect. Make sure they get the language right. And the language must be in the context of what happened to us. Then you'll see some movement on the ground in terms of reparations successes. So I'm saying the work must be done on the ground. The work must identify yourself as part of that people who was enslaved. The facts and circumstances tell us who we are. We don't have to go into no more further than that. And we don't have to go to, oh, we're Afro-Americans, we're Afro-Americans, we're blacks and all that type of stuff, people of color. No, we are the descendants of those who enslaved in the United States. Period. We can call ourselves anything. We probably will later on. But it doesn't remove the fact and circumstance of what happened to us. And where? So right now it's all about localized engagement. You got to talk to your elected officials. You got to put some pressure to them. You got to speak the R word to them. Everybody's reluctant to say the N word. Don't be reluctant to say the R word. You got to speak it on your job. Speak it in your classroom. Encourage your children to participate in the reparations movement, to come to some of the NCOBRA meetings, to come to some NCOBRA classes, education classes, you see? And so right now we're talking about reparations, education, and full repair. The two are inseparable. You got to have reparation education to get full repair. And this is not an impossibility, y'all. This is basic stuff. And the only way you prove it, you got to practice it. Our great leader, Dr. Maulana Karinga, he says that practice best proves everything. Can anybody dispute that? No, we can't. So if we feel that we don't have the capacity to do something, we got to take a step anyway. We got to practice how to engage them anyhow. Because as we take the step, the baby step, the next thing we're going to be able to take a giant step. And they're going to be able to listen to us. So we got to bring these descendant enslavers to the table. We got to show them their obligation that they have to their own ancestors, the enslaving ancestors. We got to bring our people to the table and show our obligation to ourselves. You see? And so that's where it is right now. And I think that hopefully at some point you follow up with some other more shorter versions of interviews so people can recall and do. They can hear it and do it. They be able to do it kind of quickly because we limited what they're hearing at this point in time, and we actually showing them the steps of how to do it. It's about how to do it. Reparation education, how to get the enslavers to the descendant enslavers to the table, right? And the descendants enslaved on the other side of the table. We can't allow them to do this, make these unilateral decisions by themselves, y'all. All they're gonna do is enslave us again, much further than we already are. So local action is my watchword. You got to engage, folks. You got to say the R word, and you got to educate yourself around reparations. And the responsibility to take that is to the vanguard organization called NCOBRA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. We're going to do some reparation education for full repair here in Philadelphia. And y'all can step back and watch if you like. Doesn't matter. But we hope that you actually do it in your local area. Can you visualize that? All our local chapters doing this type of local reparation education for full repair. They won't be able to stop that, y'all. And we're making some good connection with our colleges and students at our colleges and universities as well. So there you go. And we got to move on our local churches to have some reparation education for full repair as part of their services, right? Whether it be Sunday services, Wednesday services, whatever the case may be. There's scripture that support reparation throughout the Bible. So I'm done. Look forward to a more focused and time-constrained interview so that the word can be clear and people can do more with it. Thank you very much.
I appreciate those words, Minister Ari. And let me just say to the sister in the chat, pro